have a haul. I have things I want to show, and it already can feel a little uncomfortable to show the things you buy because you don't, I don't want to feel like I'm saying, look at everything I got. I want to share the joy of the things I got. And so I totally understand if you don't want to continue watching it. But I think it's also really hard to show all these things I bought when there's money that can be given and shared with Ukraine and things like that. All that to say, I know like Knitting for Olive had some, you could do some purchases and with proceeds going to Ukraine. And I think into mid-March, or I don't know for how long, Olga from the Handmade Closet, I'll link her Instagram below, is donating all of her pattern sales to Ukraine. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look. I know I for sure will be purchasing some patterns personally because, as you know, I'm super into sweaters and I've admired her designs for a long time and I've never made any. And I just feel like there's no time like the present then to support her. From what I understand, she's a Ukrainian American, so I'm sure that this is really even more devastating when you have Ukrainian friends and family. I am showing sort of the acquisitions in a space of like, in a way to show like, this is things I'm looking forward to using, things that brought joy to me over the weekend, and I hope will bring me joy in the future. Before I show some of that stuff, I thought I would show what I was knitting over the weekend, which I took a couple videos, I think, of me knitting, maybe one, I don't know. So Thursday and Friday of the yarn crawl, I did the I-cord edging on my souffle tee, which is a test knit. And then Saturday of the yarn crawl, in the car, I started to pick up stitches for my ruffle, and I met up with some people I met on Instagram, and my friend Anna, and McKaylee from Breaking Yarn, and Courtney from Shea Crochet, and I think her name was Melissa, and yeah, and we went to a brewery, and I finished picking up the stitches on my ruffle all the way around, and then continued to knit in the car yesterday. And so I'm not quite done with the ruffle still, but the ruffle rows are quite long, and I don't want to give away the pattern, but a little math nerd moment is I kind of had this moment where I was like, oh my goodness, you're really kind of creating like what's called like a hyperbolic plane in the way that you construct a ruffle. And I had never thought about a knit ruffle in that way. Honestly, prior, I'm trying to think, hopefully for my next podcast, I'll think of a way I can describe it without giving away, like why it's a hyperbolic plane, like without giving away the pattern. So yes, beautiful. So that I was knitting through the Rosa Yarn Girl. I thought about bringing something that was like easier to knit, like a sock. I mean, this is easy, but like tinier, like handier to carry with, but I wanted to do this, and everything is sort of transportable. So that was what I will think of this ruffle. Whenever I look at this ruffle, I'll think of the Rose City Yarn Crawl. All right, so I'll try my best to go in order. We'll see how this works out. So on Thursday of the Rose Yarn Crawl, I had zero intentions of going, and I found out that I get to test it, the Trelawney sweater by Tammy Gore. I did have yarn in my stash I could have used, but I thought I was at Knotty Lamb, I might as well pick out some yarn. So I picked out this color, which is Life in the Long Grass. It is 400 yards, 100 grams. And it is this like hot pink, and then there's these like blips, these darker blips in there. So it's a tonal that's going to have some interest. I actually bought 3 hanks of that, but 2 of them are already caked up because I have been swatching. And I did a swatch, I would show it too, but it's drying right now. And in addition to those, I got a Suburban Stitcher yarn. That's a single. And that's also caked up. And it's a 70% superwash merino, 30% silk. So this base is like this base in the sense that they're both singles, which you can see are not like plied, but they don't have a twist. But this one's just merino, and this is merino and silk. And this is the contrast color to this. It's a colorwork sweater, but it has a little bit of, because it has silk, it's super, super soft, but it has a little bit of shine, which I thought would be really nice as the contrast color. And when I was swatching, although this doesn't have silk, it's very soft still, and it's a very plump single, and I love kind of plump yarn, so that was nice. So that is it's gonna be a sweater, and I'm already working on it. So that feels, even though it's an acquisition, it feels good to be using it. I certainly did not need to buy it because I do have yarn I could have knit that sweater in my stash, but I'm really excited about it. So I purchased that at Knotty Lamb. When I was at Knotty Lamb, there was a pop-up shop with Explorer Knits, and got this awesome sock yarn. I kept coming back to it. I would pick it up and put it down, pick it up and put it down, and it's her Denali sock base, which is an 80-20, so 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And the colorway is called Barrel Aged Sour, which is so cool. And it's sort of coming up in the camera how it is in person, which is these layers of complexity. So like it's purple, but it's so much more. I also can find like some browns and blues, and like I kept saying pink, but then I feel like I can see pink in anything. But so it's a very interesting color. And when I was on Saturday meeting up, which was like a highlight of the birthday yarn crawl for me, with Michaeli and Courtney and Anna, Michaeli and Courtney, they had each bought a skein of yarn for yarn's sake, I think. And they split the yarn in half, and then each shared their halves, so they each had 2 50-gram skeins in 2 different colors, and were making matching socks. And I remember Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady and her friend Carrie did that maybe a year or so ago on their channel when they went to either a yarn retreat or a festival or something. And I was like, I want to do this too. So I looked immediately at Anna, and I was like, we have to do this. And she said, sure. So I texted her this morning and I asked her if she liked this colorway, and she said she did. So we're coming up with some options. I think that'll be really fun. And so yeah, I got that at Knotty Lamb at the pop-up shop. I also got these 2 yarns at the pop-up shop, which are also Explorer Knits. In this lighting right now, it's showing up much lighter than it is in person. In person, I would say it's a little moodier. Okay, this is a little bit, still looking a little bit more lavender there. But the colorway is called Woodland, which is really appropriate because there are some of these taupes and things in there. I don't have a strong idea what I'm doing with this. I just knew I needed it. It was really soft and really beautiful. I was thinking, like, if I ever wanted to make a giant project, like a sweater or something, I could just buy more skeins of it. Of course, it won't match like dye up. I can just, I mean, hand-dyed skeins never really match anyway. And so I was thinking, if I ever wanted to do more, I could just buy more, perhaps, or it can be really hard to get online, but like I could try for it. My other thought was I could just do another, my chrysalis shawl, which took 2 hanks of Surrey. I've also made a love note out of 2 hanks of Surrey before. Like, I did run out of yarn right at the end. I think like it was yarn chicken with it, but I could do like a shorter sleeve love note. So there's options. And I'll just hold this up again. So it is 74% Surrey alpaca, 26% silk. It's really nice. And also at Knotty Lamb, there were these stitch markers from Sassafras. And it's hard to see, but they're on hexagons and there's like a butterfly and they're really cute. And these ones were exclusives to the Rosa Yarn Crawl, and so that'd be nice to have those. I love knitting jewelry, and so I thought those would be fun. I also use tough woolens, like their hand and body balm, a lot. Like, my favorite scent is called Refresh, but they didn't have that, so I thought I would try 2 new scents. And sometimes I share these with Kyle, and so depending on what scent he likes, I'll give one of these to him. One is called Night Sky, and one is called 5th and 57th, and I haven't smelled them yet, but these are really nice when you're working with a rustic wool. So on Friday of the Rosa Yarn Crawl, I went with Eloise, and we went to Starlight, Ritual Dyes, and For Yarn's Sake. And I just realized that I'm missing one of my acquisitions here. For Yarn's Sake was our last stop, and although I didn't buy much at For Yarn's Sake, I bought Eddie Flip Sticks. Actually, if you're watching this and you hear that, let me know if you use Eddie Flip Sticks and how you like them. Basically pointy on one end and dull on the other end. They're double pointed needles, and it's for sock knitting. Love to know about that. But although I didn't buy anything at For Yarn's Sake, I think it was just because it was my 3rd yarn store that day, but it was incredible. And so I can't wait to go back to there, like after the Rosa Yarn Crawl. Like when I'm in the yarn need, they had a lot of fantastic yarn, and I think I took a lot of footage there because I was just like, this place is huge. I don't want to forget all this majestic yarn they had. In a way, it was like kind of like color work heaven, because they had really unique like rustic wool too. But they also had a lot of hand-dyed yarn too. I don't know. And my last comment about them is they had a lot of kits. So lots of like things in bags with yarn already put together with patterns, and who doesn't love a good kit? And so that was really cool. But the first store we went to was Starlight. And I have admired La Bien Aimée yarn for a long time, and I've never like purchased it. And there was a pop-up shop there. And I have been admiring the Corey Worsted online. And there's that new book, Worsted, they had that. I always envisioned myself buying the Worsted book with like a sweater's quantity of yarn, but as you can see, I have a lot of sweater knitting going on already. So I decided, since I have some sweater knitting in progress, going to be in progress, that what I was going to do is focus on just trying the Corey worsted, like making a hat or something. And so I knew I wanted to pick either a pink or purple Corey worsted. And I had a hard time picking a color because they were so good. There was this one that was like a more rosy pink instead of this brighter. But here's why I ended up picking this one. Hands down, Floral Morganite, like the mohair of La Bien-Aimée, is something that I crush on. Like, can you imagine a souffle in a very, very bright neon coral? Like, their mohair version of it is like popping. If you just Google images or look around Instagram or search on Ravelry, you can see like how bright that yarn is. Well, that colorway like is put on a superwash yarn or is put on a mohair. It, like, the way that those fibers take that dye, like, it makes it just fluorescent. But this is like natural Corey with like no superwash in it. So, and the Corey yarn has like these like little gray fibers. So that same dye is this. So it's much more like tame, but it's still bright. And so I love sort of the heathered look it gets with like the natural fibers in there. So it's definitely a rustic yarn, but like soft rustic. So I will feel fine with this as like a hat. And so, yeah, so I only bought one skein of that. And it's expensive though. And so I thought that would be a nice, that was my treat at Starlight. My mom really loves the logo at Starlight Knitting Society. So in the past, I have purchased her like a little sock bag with Starlight, but I had never purchased myself anything with the Starlight logo. So I did get a t-shirt that has the Starlight logo on it. And they had other really beautiful t-shirts. It's just that they didn't have my size. And so, but I was able to try this one on. I like the way it fit. And in the summertime, I wear a lot of t-shirts. And I love my knitting t-shirts the most. So that was really fun. And I actually like, anytime we go on vacation or anything like that, I buy a pencil wherever we're at. And so when I saw Starlight Knitting Society had pencils, I had to have one. Like, I always buy a pencil somewhere, so that was really fun. And okay, so maybe you knew this already, but I did not. Twill and Print has a pin that says Sip Sip Knit on it. And if you watch this podcast, you know I have a segment of my podcast called Sip Sip Knit, so that was really exciting. I did buy some other things at Starlight, but I am saving those for Mother's Day. My mom watches this podcast or channel pretty regularly, so I can't show it on here. All right, so at Ritual Dyes, I didn't purchase anything, but my friend Eloise did. And she got some really epic yarn, and that, hopefully I've included footage of it so you can see it. I think about her yarn still. It was so good. And so that was Friday. So Saturday, the intent was to only go to one store, and I ended up going to 3 stores. Well, first, I was not sure if we were going to go to any stores on Saturday because I was feeling exhausted. So then we went to Close Knits, and then we're gonna head out. But basically, when I went to Close Knits, there was a long line. It was cold, and so I was trying to be efficient in the store, and I didn't get a lot at Close Knits. I did get more than I'm gonna show you because, again, I bought my mom some things for Mother's Day or birthday or something. But I'm not much of a bag purchaser. Like, I don't purchase bags often, but I feel like when I do, you know, it's epic. Look at that. So it's black fabric and that's like shiny, glittery. And the theme of the Rosie yarn call was bloom. So it's like really fits in with the bloom. And then this is like a cork bottom. And so it's like small shawl, sock size. Could easily fit in 2 skeins. So I'm really excited about that. And I also got these, I'm not much of a needle stopper person, but I did end up buying these needle stoppers because they were just so darling. They're like little tulips from the brand Tulip. And so after the close knits, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go meet up with my Instagram friends, and Anna and we went separate to meet up in the Pearl District, but we were both early. And I spent my time early in the Pearl District by hanging out in Powell's books. I won't show you my book haul, but books were purchased. And just a side note, Powell's always has like a little bookmark you can take for free. And so even if you don't purchase anything. And so I grabbed some bookmarks there. And yeah, and so I could have just continued spending time in Powell's, but Anna got to the Pearl District early as well. So I was like, okay, I'll meet up with you. And we decided to just walk over to Pearl Fiber Arts, and she got some yarn there. It was really pretty from Alexandra the Art. It was like gray with all these mini skeins. It's really cute. And I did not make a purchase, but I enjoyed looking around. It was very, it was a smaller store, but it had really fun, unique kind of, gradients. And Alexandra Art of the Yarn, her colors are very vibrant. So it was fun to look at. And then by that point in time, I had done 6 out of the 8 stores. So it was like on the way home, we stopped at Northwest Wools. I was with my friend Andrew. He made some purchases. I don't know if I took any video footage of it or not. Oops, even though I did not make any purchases. And in the past at Northwest Wools, I have purchased buttons. I've made several sweaters from Matilda that have some nice buttons on them, and a lot of them I've purchased from them. And they have a really good selection of like Noro. I was like in awe, and I always kept holding these giant Noro balls, and I was like, I really want one, but I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. And so at that point in time, I had 1 store left, which was Weird Sisters, and I had never been there. And when we pulled up to it yesterday, I was so excited because it's a bookstore and a yarn store. And I'm sure everybody knew that. I don't know. I somehow didn't know that. And oh my gosh. So they also have bookmarks I picked up too. So yeah, so here's their logo. It says Two Rivers Bookstore on the top. And then it says Weird Sisters Yarn Shop on the bottom. So that's pretty cool, I feel like. Yeah. And so when I was there, some yarn fell down on the ground. When I was there was a pop-up shop for a dyer who is book themed. And this summer I read this book, Hamnet. She dyed minis to go with the book Hamnet, like inspired by that. And she had various books like this. I think she had Anne of Green Gables inspired. I ended up getting this. It's kind of creamy. It's showing up much more blown out in the camera there. It is called Foxing. Base is Carson, which is DK, which is 100% superwash merino. And I was wanting to make like DK socks with it. I have a hard time finding DK that has nylon in it. So these don't, but I'll still knit a pair of socks with them. So I thought that was really fun. In person, it's definitely darker, not so blown out. It's a really dreary day here today with like a lot of rain, so it's kind of really dark in this room right now, even with my ring light. I suppose I could have turned more overhead headlights on, but nonetheless, she said with this colorway that she was inspired by like old books and how they kind of turn brown the pages, and that really like spoke to me, because in my own kind of professor world, one of my first research studies I did was on these very old books and what are called ciphering books, which are like what people used in like the 1700s. They'd write out their math and carry around this book. And so I have a collection of really old math texts. And so this really like just kind of spoke to me. So that was what I got at Weird Sisters, and that was my last stop on the crawl. So I remember in the vlog I shared that you get a pin at all the stores, and so when you finish your last store, you get a finisher's pin, which was really exciting. And I think this is only the second time I've done all of the stores, because I did all the stores in 2016 when there was a lot more stores than this year. This year there was only 8 stores in the crawl, which made it more doable, but kind of exhausting too. And so then you get entered in for like this grand prize basket, or baskets, prizes. So every store has prize baskets that you can enter in for raffles. When you complete all the stores, you get entered for raffles. And I have won a 3rd place store prize in the past, and it was really epic. Like, I can't even fathom like how much yarn is in the 2nd or 1st place baskets, or even the grand prize, when I think about like how much yarn was in my 3rd place basket. It was so good. And the other thing is, when you make a purchase at the store, on your receipt, there is a code that you can go into Ravelry and you can download that store's pattern. So every store has a knit and crochet pattern that goes with it. And of course you can purchase those patterns if you just like them on Ravelry, but you can get the pattern for free if you make a purchase from that store. So as you can tell, I have earned quite a few free patterns. I don't know for sure, but I think it's my understanding that if you complete the whole crawl, you get all the patterns for free, but I don't know if that's true or not. That was true in 2016 when I did it, but I don't know now. And I think I have until early March or mid-March to download all these patterns. I haven't done it yet. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope that like seeing this brought some joy during a hard time in our world right now. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.